Hello, my name's Tom Doney. I recently travelled down to Watford, just north of London, to document the Bilderberg protest slash festival, which was happening simultaneously to the actual conference, the Bilderberg conference, in the grounds of a hotel called the Grove. So the Bilderberg meeting happens every year in different locations around the world. And what it is it's lots of important people from business, finance, politics, and they all meet kind of in private in different places around the world. This year in the Grove Hotel in Watford. So essentially this meeting is an opportunity for the corporate elite of the world to lobby Parliament, to lobby the governments of the NATO nations to make sure that they're all pulling in the same direction. Now that direction is not towards the benefit of you or I or the citizens within the nations. It's for the benefit and the further consolidation of wealth and power in the hands of this tiny little oligarchy who are actually running things. Okay, there's just one or two things I'd like to say about this particular event this year. So you had total security lockdown around the grounds of the hotel. I was really surprised when I arrived how overt it was, and I think that kind of shows the hand of these people. For such a sort of relatively small protest, I think at most we were a few thousand on the Saturday, and for such a relatively modest protest, the scale of the police operation was pretty huge. There was police from all around the south of England coming to reinforce the operation of the Hertfordshire Police Constabulary. You also had G4S manning security at the gate to the protest site, as well as in the grounds of the hotel. So basically, we were positioned right at the entrance to the drive to the Grove Hotel, and the hotel is actually positioned right up on the top of the hill, and you'll see a bit of that in the video. We were fenced in, and also fenced in were the actual Bilderbergers themselves inside a reinforced steel and concrete fence which was erected specifically for the event. So I'd just like to give you a little outline of some of the caliber of individual attending these events. And this year we had George Osborne, our Chancellor in the UK, our Finance Secretary basically, as well as our Shadow Finance Secretary, the guy that he shouts at across the Parliament, Ed Balls from Labour. So this kind of cracks the illusion for me of the two-party system. What we have is a two-party system, but they both seem to be controlled by the same people. David Cameron, the British Prime Minister, also admitted that he attended. He arrived at around 4 o'clock on the Friday afternoon, a day after the other delegates arrived. Now, come on, what's going on here? Also, you've got Eric Schmidt of Google, the CEO of Google, who are intimately tied with the CIA and spying on people through the internet. You've got Jeff Bezos of Amazon. You've got Peter Voser, the CEO of Shell. You've got the CEO of Michelin there. You've got Stuart Gulliver, the chief executive of HSBC, recently caught laundering drug money for Mexican drug cartels. You've also got Timothy Geithner, who was there, former Treasury Secretary, served under Obama, who was instrumental in securing all those banker bailouts for his criminal friends on Wall Street. Peter Sutherland was there, who's a long-serving member of the Bilderberg Group, one of the sort of godfathers of banking globalization, who is now chairman of Goldman Sachs, the bank which has made the biggest killing out of the banker bailouts. From the political sphere, you've got Mark Rutte, Prime Minister of the Netherlands. You've got Mario Monti, the former Prime Minister of Italy, who was installed by fiat, by the EU, after the Italian financial crisis. You've got David Petraeus, the disgraced former US Army chief. You've got François Fillon, the former Prime Minister of France. You've got José Manuel Barroso, who is president of the EU Commission. From the media you have the editor of The Economist magazine, and you also have Martin Wolf, who is the chief economic editor of the Financial Times. Financial Times being one of these great globalist publications. Also attending, you've got Henry Kissinger, whose fingerprints are all over pretty much every war in the last 50 years. You've got royalty like the former Queen of the Netherlands, Beatrix, who attends every year. She just abdicated. Also attending, we have Peter Mandelson, who's Tony Blair's bosom buddy and very influential in his reign as Prime Minister and everything that went with it, like lies about weapons of mass destruction, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War. You've got Kenneth Clarke, who's on the steering committee for the last 10 years of the Bilderberg Group, very high up in the Tory party, former chairman of British American Tobacco, who you'll be hearing a little bit more about in this video. Some quite disturbing accusations. Also, not on the official attendee list, but seen entering the Grove Hotel were Bill and Hillary Clinton, as well as the godfather of them all, the granddaddy, the aging and decrepit David Rockefeller. So anyway, over the 4 days that I spent there, I ended up with all this footage. I didn't really know what to do with it, but I thought, why not make it into a sort of documentary? So that's what I've done. It's not really in chronological order, it's just in kind of an order which makes sense to me, and I just ask that you watch it with an open mind and enjoy it, and that's it. It's called Bilderberg 2013.
Got your white shoes on, but you painted them black. Still the old boys know all your dirty secrets by the way you shake
just going
their
through to the
hand.
protest site now. Hello, good day, sir.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Hello, mate.
Stringent security checks were conducted by G4S, the largest security company in the world.
It's a YouTube video, and you know the main guy that's in charge.
Apparently no tin goods allowed. Due to the supposed threat of terrorism, the airspace above the Grove Hotel had been made into a no-fly zone. What was this helicopter doing, I wonder? One by one, we watched the delegates arrive in their 4x4s and Mercedes-Benz with blacked out windows. Let's just say they didn't exactly receive a hero's welcome.
Yeah, I know. Cover his face up.
It was a great surprise to me when I saw that certain elements of mainstream media had turned up. Could it be that they were about to take Bilderberg seriously for once? I'm sure John Sargent is extremely interested in what's going on inside.
And sum up for me why this matters to ordinary men and women. Why is this important? Why should we know what's going on there?
The average person needs to be aware that the reason it seems like government is doing things to us instead of doing things for us is because corporate special interests that are anti-free market, that are monopoly capitalist, have come in and taken over through vehicles like Bilderberg. And now they're going more public with Davos and other forums. But they want diplomatic immunity. They want $100 trillion in the next decade of taxpayer money to prop up their derivatives. They formulated more than 15 years ago at Bilderberg, this has been leaked, the plan to get rid of banking regulations so they could pull off the global banking crisis, the LIBOR scandal, fixing interest rates. That was always a conspiracy theory. We had Bilderberg documents from the 60s with major bank attendees there trying to fix interest rates. That's what these big moguls do. Instead of producing a product that makes them number one, they go make deals with government to shut down their competition or to prop them up when their ventures fail. You see, they've made risk public and the profit private. And that's what's going on in there. That is the mother of all mega lobbying events going on right up there behind that steel cage, paid for with taxpayer money. You've got men in there on record worth $50 billion. That's just their public wealth. And then the people of this area north of London are going to have to pay to have all of that erected.
So are we looking to interview any delegates this weekend?
You said it right on camera when you spoke to him. You asked him his name.
The point is, what is significant? Why do they want secrecy? That's the question that we need to ask. It is not just a cosy chat. You don't get people coming thousands of miles who are the leaders of the European Commission, who are the president of the World Bank or the WTO or the IMF, all coming here, not because they want to have a cup of tea in a Swiss hotel, but because they want to have complete frankness in their discussions. They want to have serious policy making, and in the state of current capitalism, they want to concert their plans, and it may be pretty brutal. I can well understand that that is what they're discussing, but the fact is, if they are discussing those things, the one group of people who ought to be involved is us, because we are the ones. These are the people who are deciding our future, our livelihood, our jobs, and if you look at the bedroom tax, even our homes. So it's about time that we had this opened up. Now I think that's an extremely reasonable request. Well, what I say to them is, if you are so keen to know about every single email, etc. that we send, we want to know the place.
Paul Joseph Watson of PrisonPlanet.com, editor-in-chief of PrisonPlanet.com, is that correct?
And Infowars.
And Infowars, okay. So my one question I'd like to ask you is capitalism the problem?
I don't think capitalism's the problem. It's most of these people, there's a lot of socialists in there, a lot of communists in there. It's not really about capitalism per se, free market, it's just about domination, centralisation of power. We've got monopoly capitalism at the moment, it's not true free market, so I wouldn't blame it exclusively on capitalism. Capitalism's just another system that's been hijacked, just as communism was back 50, 60 years ago. So people still buy into the false left-right paradigm. They don't understand they're being manipulated from all sides. And
Can you answer rumors about you being
they buy a lot of the global warming stuff because a lot of it's convincing, and you know, they don't have the full picture, which is why we exist, to try and give people a full picture.
I spoke to ex-Navy officer Brian Gerrish, who, through Freedom of Information requests, has done some excellent work exposing a secretive and rather Orwellian-sounding organisation which exists in the UK called Common Purpose.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your work exposing Common Purpose and what they actually are?
Well, essentially we've been exposing Common Purpose over 10 years. What they are is a political charity, absolutely working for a political objective, major change in society, but they've done it by setting up a secretive network of what they describe as future leaders. So they're using vast amounts of public money, calling themselves a charity, but in fact they're operating in a particular way to introduce their particular type of society.
Any other connections between Common Purpose and the Bilderberg group, or any like past attendees or anything like that, which you can shed light on?
Well, I can't give you a direct link, and our policy is that we're never talking about something till we've got the evidence to prove it. But of course, if you simply look at the international banks that have been bankrolling Common Purpose, you're talking everywhere from the defunct Lehman Brothers to Goldman Sachs to Deutsche Bank to UBS. Common Purpose is intimately funded by the very banks who are now going to be sat up the hill
all highly represented up the hill in the hotel. Charlie Skelton here of The Guardian. Talking to the BBC.
A few of us had a little chat with BBC reporter Adam Fleming. He seemed to think that a lot of the points we had to raise were fair enough.
the world, most powerful people in the world, can only discuss policies and everything, and we're not allowed to know what's going on.
Yeah, and MPs that we've elected and shouldn't be doing it in secret.
The Chancellor, the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Shadow Chancellor are there in the same meeting, like discussing policies. So
conflicts of interest.
Freedom of information, allowed to know what's going on.
What do you think they'll be chatting about, the Chancellor and the Shadow Chancellor, Ed Balls?
Isn't there a list of the topics that they discuss?
There is a list.
There's an official list of topics. If there's a meeting, a secret meeting in private where they give a list of topics that they are discussing, and a journalist is just supposed to accept that those are the topics on debate, then it's kind of it goes against the spirit of journalism, I would have said.
Fair enough, thank you.
What do you think about the fact that Marcus Agius has been to these meetings before?
I'm not here to do interviews.
Hello.
Well, I realized I made a big mistake by not bringing my golf clubs. That was my first mistake. Second of all, it's a beautiful day at Bilderberg Capital Center. Gates of hell!
Journalist Ben Fellows went onto the stage with some damning accusations against the BBC, and also one Tory minister pretty high up in the Bilderberg organisation.
When they came out and said that Jimmy Savile was the only person in the BBC who was a paedophile, I said, I was a child actor in the BBC. There's loads of paedophiles. Children's BBC are run by paedophiles. You go to auditions, they say, take your top off. You know, can you pretend to lick an ice cream? That's how they do it. And it's all done through agents and casting directors. And then I came out and said, well, it's the wider industry. And that got put into the Daily Express. And then I said, not only that, but when I met Kenneth Clark, when I was working for the Cook Report as an investigative journalist many years later, I was 18 years old. The producer of the programme said, look, can you say you're 15 to grease the wheels against these guys? Because they knew that young boys hung around with these businessmen and they wanted to get in with them. So I said to Ken Clark when I met him, I'm 15 years old. And what did he do? Yeah, grope me. I've done my article, he hasn't sued me. Nobody has sued me. I have not received a solicitor's letter. I have not seen a cease and desist from anybody. And that only happens when you're telling the truth. Otherwise, I'd be crucified, and it would have happened instantly. My YouTube channel got taken down, my Facebook channel got taken down, and my Twitter account got taken down, all in the space of about 10 minutes. I was given drugs, I was given alcohol. I don't think it was like a line of coke in the bathroom with a £20 note, because it wasn't. It was a milkshake. A chocolate, a strawberry milkshake with cocaine in it. And, no, I'm right. And people said, drink this will pep you up for the show. That's how you were given drugs. And then you were given alcohol. I went to Esther Ranson's house for a party, and we were doing drugs and alcohol in that party when we were kids. She's head of child life, for God's sake. Can she be questioned? Absolutely. Can she be questioned? No. Jimmy Savile had to die before we questioned anything and all the victims came out. You know? Kenneth Clark cannot be questioned because the police admitted that there was a two-tier system in place. Politicians cannot and won't be spoken to by the paedophile unit. The paedophile unit won't speak to them. They're simply gathering intelligence to be used against these people. I'm gonna cry.
I was delighted to speak to Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change, who likes to go around with his video camera, sticking it in the faces of the power elite, asking them questions which they're not used to answering. So we're here with Luke Rudkowski.
Some bloke.
Some guy, don't recognise him, you should. Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change. So famously confronted Henry Kissinger twice? Three times, yeah, 3 times. And you were he called you a disgusting coward, no?
A horrible person, an evil man, to go to hell, and a coward.
And a coward, yeah. And so did he hurt your feelings at all?
No. When it comes from him, an insult that's coming from Kissinger is a compliment.
And also we've confronted Tony Blair as well, haven't we?
Yes.
Where did you confront Tony Blair?
When?
When and where?
New York City, about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Or 2 years ago.
And what was the occasion?
It was actually a 9/11 fundraiser for the memorial.
And you asked him about Bilderberg, if I remember correctly, no? And what did you ask him?
I said, did you ever attend the Bilderberg meeting? The Guardian says you were there, and he said, yes, I had a lovely time there. But what he didn't really say is, yes, I liked Parliament, because he actually told Parliament he never went to Bilderberg.
Yeah.
So we caught him in the lie.
So you
And then I asked
actually
him
world
if it was-
exclusive.
Yeah, and I asked him if it was a conflict of interest, and he said yes, which just shocked me, and I didn't even know where to proceed.
And we
'Cause I was expecting a lie or a counterpoint, or to somehow, and then out of nowhere he just says yes, and that just shocked
I suppose so. Yeah,
Like,
it could be considered.
what do I do now?
Yeah.
He just admitted that
Yeah.
the Bilderberg Group is a conflict
Send
of
it.
interest.
Send your
Prime
footage.
Minister.
Send your footage to CNN. Send your footage to BBC.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to help. Why is it not going to help?
The alternative media will be the new mainstream media.
How is that going to be possible on like cable satellite? Do you think it's possible, or is it only
Cable,
through the internet?
satellite, and television is slowly declining in viewership. Their ratings are going down. The internet is the new way of information.
How do you do it? What's your secret? Just because it's quite something. For instance, to go and confront people like Kissinger and Blair.
You have to understand life is short.
Yeah.
We all go sometime. You might as well live life to the fullest without being afraid. I do get fearful, of course. It is stressful. It is nerve-wracking. But I just remember, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter if it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is your actions. Whatever they could do to you, I have to show them that they can't take away my freedom, that they can't make me so afraid that I'm not going to be able to talk to them.
Yeah.
And just proving the fact that you got to make the most of this short time you have on here. We're going to go sooner than we expect, all of us, and it's all going to be always just clinging on, and we always love life, but it's temporary.
Yeah.
And because it's so temporary, you have to appreciate it and live it to the fullest.
I imagine it makes you feel quite alive.
Oh, it does. It's a huge
during and the aftermath. Yeah.
I can only the big confrontations I can only compare to skydiving.
This guy wanted to make his own point by crossing over into the forbidden ground between the protest site and the hotel. And for anyone wondering, yes, we did see him again after this.
With a very short haircut, you have been given the adopted name of Xavier. Xavier, I would like your permission to cross the fence to retrieve my banana, please.
A fellow Scotsman, Darren Diogi, came to the stage, and for me he personally summed up the peaceful and empowering nature of the event.
There's a few people out here who are trying to change the story of this event, apparently. There's a few people in the crowd that are trying to stir up a bit of nonsense. I'm here with my family to try and spread a positive message of change and of a change in the story in the direction of our species. And I don't want any silliness going on by any sort of like usurping, immature, whatever that's going on. But I just invite you to consider what's going on in your heads if you're listening to any of these people who are trying to stir up trouble. What story are they trying to get you to describe about this event with your life and your actions? What's going on in your daily description of life? Whose story are you telling? And I just really like to encourage the fact that just get you all to look around for a second and see that nobody here looks anything like you, nobody dresses anything like you. You've all chosen your appearance and your clothes uniquely and with effortless confidence. I just really want to celebrate that uniqueness in each of you and ask you to try and seek to find your own story in life. What is your role? Don't be standing here talking about somebody else's power. Every time you think that these people have power, you're giving it to them. Don't compete that. What I think is really interesting is we're here as civilized, developed, awakening individuals who only need to be held in by a little piece of red tape. That lot up there need giant steel barriers to keep them in. Who's more afraid? You know what I mean? They need a half-mile killing zone here because they are so afraid of you. Because your power is real, theirs is not.
Here we have the one and only Alex Jones on a barge going through the grounds of the Grove Hotel.
So we got permission for this? Not judging by the reaction.
The Grove Hotel wouldn't allow any amplified music to be played. That don't stop the saxophone.
Yeah, okay. Now here's a funny thing about I just want to give you, but this is one of my specialties, is about words and language, and I'd just like to say that is a funny one because a lot of people think when they're asked to do it, they think, well, this is pointless, this is silly, why am I doing this? Well, there's a funny thing about the word and it's actually about, has anybody here seen an by the way, just out of curiosity? Yeah, funnily enough, Hindu philosophy says the Om is the fundamental building block of the universe. Behind all that is manifest, you will find that which is Om. What on earth does that mean? Well, Western science says the fundamental building block of the universe is the atom. Has anybody seen an atom? No, exactly. They're talking about exactly the same thing. Do you know how important sound is to us humans? That's why they call your body parts organs. It's why you refer to each other as sound. It's why they call it a universe. It's why you measure space in volume. We have all these terms about how important sound is. You decompose when you die, and what I'm asking you all to do is to compose yourselves. The only thing that you are responsible for is your conduct. These are all sound-related terms for a good reason, so don't let anybody stir you into actions that don't tell the story of your life that you don't want it to be.
I've got a belief that we're all born equal, that we're all born to collaborate and get along with each other, treat each other with respect, and the behaviour you give out to others is what comes back to you. Now, my recent experiences lead me to believe that certain other people who consider themselves to be in a position of authority don't share my beliefs. They like to intimidate people, they like to oppress people, they like to order people around, and I have never found in my existence that is the way to get the best out of human beings.
Yeah. Possibly the people involved at the conference here aren't exactly interested in getting the best out of human beings.
I'm not interested in talking to them, truth be told.
Don't hold back, Tommy boy, let it go. Here we go.
Because this is my own film, I thought I'd put a little bit of myself playing guitar in it.
This is the beautiful thing about music. When it hits you, you feel no pain. Whoa.
Well, he's the best man that I know, the safest pair of hands. You go to work and crack some heads and then you'll start kicking ass.
Yeah, man.
I'm sick of political correctness. Political correctness is a fascism. Political correctness is a fascism that stops people speaking out. So eventually, everybody had to watch what they were saying and watch what they're doing, to the point now where if you post things on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, you're getting arrested, and it's fucking bullshit. I'm sick of living in this politically correct society that says you can't say this and you can't say that and you can't do this and you can't do that. Do you know something, right? 10 years ago, I was the most down the road, quiet, mild-mannered, middle-of-the-road person, but because the government have stopped everything, they've created the biggest alcoholic chain-smoking races in the fucking country. Leave us alone. What we've got up on the mountain there, really, is like a convention of Bond villains, all in the same room, all at the same time. Just think about one Bond film after another. That's what the atmosphere in these places is like. I spoke to at Versailles, I spoke to the Greek finance minister who came out of the meeting. Of course, someone that wanted to come out now couldn't do it. He came out of the meeting, he said the atmosphere in there is toxic, and anyway, the cigarettes are too expensive. So he'd come out onto the streets of Paris to have a chat with us. And what happened afterwards to Greece? So the politicians who are in there don't believe that they're always happy about being there.
And here we see G4S in their natural habitat, protecting the corporate criminals.
They're darkening our world. It's almost like a cloud, a load of cloud coming across. Today the cloud's shining because we're here, but these guys are bringing clouds across. They're darkening Europe with corruption. It's like Europe and the United States, the NATO countries, are becoming like a kind of massive banana republic where everything is just done for a few leaders and democracy is being crushed. They're capturing our main political parties.
Research is the key to understanding world events. If something interests you and you're passionate about it, then you should go and find out about it, like this guy did.
So, I'm talking to,
Terry Lawton is my name.
Terry Lawton.
Yep.
And you've done a lot of research on geoengineering.
Geoengineering, yes.
And chemtrails, specifically. So can you just give us a brief description of what does geoengineering actually mean? What is it?
Geoengineering is the artificial and deliberate manipulation of the Earth's climatic system. And there are two different methods of geoengineering. There is carbon dioxide removal, which is basically introducing fertilization into the ocean so that there'll be more plants and algae created to create more carbon dioxide. And to absorb carbon dioxide, that's carbon dioxide removal. There are different methods of it as well, like painting the roofs of houses white is what they propose, putting out like white sheets in green areas and all to reflect the sun back out to space. But then the solar radiation management then, which is basically reflecting the sun back out to space. What I said, that's the area that chemtrail activists are dealing with, because what they're doing is they're reflecting the sun back out to space using the particulates that they're adding into the aviation fuel. They create the artificial cloud cover, reflect the sun back out to space. They tell us it's for a purpose of reducing global warming. And this is the cover story that they sell it under. The Royal Society in England have written documents. There's one document called the Solar Radiation Management Government Initiative. This document is basically a document which is aimed to coerce governments all around the world to sign on to geoengineering, to make it legal and to regulate it in using a governmental and a safe scientific structure. So it's very well documented, geoengineering. I call it geoengineering. I tend not to call it chemtrailing because it has more of a connotation with conspiracy theorists and all that.
Absolutely.
I use a scientific term that they use themselves. But it's really going on. Weather modification has been going on for decades.
How have people shown that it's actually been happening?
All you've got to do is look at the lab results from soil samples taken all around the world, water samples. Aluminium levels are sky high. They're thousands of times above what they should be. Aluminium is one of the chemicals that they say that they're spraying. In the Wells back patent in 1991, the US Department of Defense wrote out this patent which lists out the chemicals that they use in the chemtrails, which they propose using. Barium salt, strontium and aluminium dioxide. Aluminium now is one of the chemicals that is abundant in soils all around the world. Monsanto, miraculously, who are one of the Devil Seed Company, are one of the major funders of the geoengineering program. They have miraculously come up with a new seed line that can grow in aluminium contaminated soil. So this is a reaction, a solution to the problem that they've created. And that's like how this whole system works. It's problem, reaction, solution. Apart from like the government documents and all we got to do is look up in the sky from observational evidence. Like when I was growing up, as a child looking up in the sky, a plane would fly by and a jet trail would dissipate a few lengths after the plane. It's not the case anymore. What's happened? Big stripes. Big stripes. The sky is...
and it creates clouds.
All of this stuff is new. Everything related to geoengineering is all new. It's all the new normal. Even you go onto Google. You can see it on a Place in the Sun. The start of a place in the Sun, the holiday program. You see a big chemtrail being sprayed at the start. There's ads now for cereals, which say that there's vitamin D in the cereals.
There's a lot of cereals.
They're trying to promote this lack of sunlight as a natural phenomenon. What they're trying to say is you can get your vitamin D now from the supermarket shelf, a pot in the supermarket shelf, instead of sunlight itself. So this is a new substitute for sunlight. So they're trying to push this. NASA have confirmed that the Earth has got 20% darker in the last 15 years. That's also the same time span since this program has started. There's various documents out there. One very, for you British people here, is the document to refer to is the House of Commons regulation on geoengineering. But it's very real. It's very real. I encourage everybody to research it themselves.
The police liaison officers were all pretty much on best behaviour. They might have even learned one or two things as well.
We were fighting Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and for a while we were supposed to be fighting them in Libya, and then we armed them in Libya, and now we're arming them in Syria, and yet we're fighting them in Mali and across Africa and the rest of the world. And William Hague says we pour more weapons into Syria to make us safe and save the humanitarian crisis. How ridiculous is that?
This is the historic first meeting between the two behemoths of the alternative and inverted commas conspiracy media, Alex Jones and David Icke.
Isn't it great having David here?
know what's incredible? Is that now David Cameron's coming to this, now they're acting like it's no big deal. First it didn't exist, then we were stupid to say that it had any power. Now the Prime Minister any minute is reportedly going to arrive, and they've got the police stacking up so that he can go in. Just really incredible.
In the early Saturday evening sunshine, thousands of us sat on the lawn to watch these two give their keynote addresses.
Their behaviour. Perception is the stadium on which the whole thing's played out. What they want to do now, and are in the process of doing, is going another stage beyond.
Incidentally, hundreds of people had to be turned away at the gates because they hadn't allocated enough space for the protest site.
The first technique I gave the name to a long time ago now, problem, reaction, solution. Real simple. You want to change the world in a way that if you did it openly, there would be a massive response against it. So you don't do it openly. You first of all create a problem which you blame someone else for. 9/11 and all that stuff, a banking crash, a government crash, and you blame it on someone or something else. You then, here we go again, through a unquestioning mainstream media, you pass on your version of that problem to the public, and you're looking at stage 2 for a reaction of fear, of anxiety, of do something, something must be done. And then you, who've covertly created that problem, then offer the solution to the problems you've created. And those solutions are changes in society that advance the agenda towards this structure I'm talking about, that would never have happened without the manipulated problem. There's even a version, Tony Blair's good at these. Tony Blair, what? Yeah. Tony Blair! If there's ever a half-truth in a Blair speech, it's a typing error, okay? But it's an add-on to that technique, an offshoot, which I call no-problem reaction solution. This is when you don't need a real problem to justify the solution, you just invent one. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Dead simple. Don't need a problem. Invent it. And alongside problem, reaction, solution, its partner almost always hunts together. What I call the totalitarian tiptoe. And again, dead simple, and my goodness me, that brings us back to this organization here. You start at A, as they did, and you know you're going to Z. You know where the agenda's leading. But if you go there too quickly, the changes in society are such that people look up and go, what's going on? What's happening? And so you do it in steps as big as you can get away with, but not so big that you alert too many people. And so what we've seen in the most classic example, which brings us to this organization, so the totalitarian tiptoe is the European Union. We have a European Union centralized bureaucratic dictatorship thanks to the Bilderberg Group and its manipulation over decades. The Bilderberg Group was created in part by a man called Joseph Rettinger. It just so happens that Joseph Rettinger was one of the major instigators of the European Union. And he worked in creating the initial common market with a man called Jean Monnet, who is still today called the father of Europe, the father of the European project.
I'm the father in person.
I have a quote here from a letter by Monnet, one day after I was born. April the 30th, 1952, right at the start of the European project, orchestrated in so great a part through this. And this is what Monnet said in 1952. Europe's nations should be guided towards the superstate without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will eventually and irreversibly lead to federation.
Anyways, I'm talking to this European Union member of Parliament, And I mentioned to him that the EU was an Axis plan. The EU, the whole plan, the Treaty of Rome, the Treaty of Britain, all of these treaties that led up to it after the war, those had actually, word for word, been the Nazi Axis plan to take over the countries that they hadn't invaded, to pressure them into an economic slavery. And this is the plan now that they have been following for 60 years plus, and they've done a really good job of taking over most of the planet. And they did a really good job of keeping the public in the dark about their plans. But now, when a major member of the EU Parliament and members of the UK Parliament and of the German Bundestag are all in the newspapers, and the head of the Italian Supreme Court is in the newspapers, saying Bilderberg was founded by Nazis with the CIA and British intelligence at the end of World War II with a plan to take over the world, just like the West adopted the rocket plans of the Nazis and the intelligence operation plans of the Nazis, and even our military wears the Kurzel helmet of the Nazis, because Germany had been most successful via the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute before Hitler even came to power, adopting the Rockefeller genocide world program of Malthusianism and social Darwinism, established right here in the middle of England and then transplanted all over the world. Family courts taking your children in mass all over the place. Those are unconstitutional under common law. Eugenics courts. Go check your local family court. See when it was established. 1900, 1905, 1910. Same thing in Germany. Same thing in the United States.
This is not an accident. This is not, oh, we better have a Maastricht Treaty. Shall we have a Maastricht Treaty? It's all projected forward. And we have now reached the point in Europe where something like 70% of the laws that are introduced into this country start out in the bureaucracy in Brussels. That's how far we have gone. And we've got a situation, the guy in there called Viscount Etienne d'Avignon, right? They love their titles, these people. The d'Avignon guy said a few years ago, when he was chairman of this bloody lot, that they were involved and instrumental in bringing in the euro. Leaked documents from the 1955 Bilderberg meeting in Germany show that they were talking about the common market at that time and where it was going. So we have a situation here where the media are saying, oh no, there's no conspiracy, they're just meeting to have a chat, when the evidence is overwhelming that what is decided there comes down into policy that affects all of us. And we have a devastated fishing industry in this country. We have a devastated mining industry, and we have a devastated manufacturing industry because of these people over the decades. Maybe a lot of people don't realize this, but it was proved when documents came to light under the 30-year rule of the British government, when they released documents. Edward Heath, when I was a kid in the 60s, was never off the telly pressing us to join the common market. Edward Heath, major Bilderberger, frontman gopher for the House of Rothschild, especially a guy called Lord Victor Rothschild, who helped to set this thing up. Heath, in his negotiations, while denying it at the time, agreed, when signing us into Europe at the start of the 1970s, that he would run down, Britain would run down, our fishing industry on an island nation, manufacturing and all the other stuff and mining, because right from the start, they had stitched Europe up and set out a structure all the way back at the start through these people, where they were dictating which countries within the European superstate would specialize in what. And what they decided Britain would specialize in is service industries, banking, and the City of London. And what has happened since is that all the things that Heath agreed to run down when he joined have been run down massively with great, unbelievable devastation for families and people's lives. They don't give a shit. And at the same time, the things that Britain was supposed to specialise in, they're the ones that have been expanded and expanded and expanded, not least the City of London. This is not something that happens by chance. It doesn't happen by random. It doesn't happen in a projection a few weeks or months or even years forward. What is unfolding in front of our eyes is a conspiracy to enslave humanity in a global Orwellian state in which the whole area of what they want has been set out for beyond decades, and it will continue to play out until we stop it.
We have the initiative. We have the future. We will win if we want to. And I know in my heart and in my mind we will. The question is, how tough is it going to be? But just remember, like ripples in a pond, everything we do here today, everything you do, goes on forever. And that's why it's so important that all of you came here, but it's so important that you realize, many of you do, that you are the resistance, that you are the future, that it is you that is going to control your destiny, working with other like minds. And that's why we have to salute people like Westbrook Pegler, more than 55 years ago, first reporting on Bilderberg when they didn't even know what the name was. And then Jim Tucker for 36 years, who just died about 4.5 weeks ago in his home in Georgia, who tirelessly traveled the world and was shot at and arrested and demonized, and the media would laugh at him and say, this crazy guy is going around saying some group of royalty and banking and the tops of academia are meeting in secret. Why, that's illegal. That can't be happening. It doesn't exist. Just 4 years ago, the New York Times wrote that I was in Chantilly, Virginia, walking around in a hotel grounds like this, imagining Bilderberg. This is why there were helicopters, police, four-wheelers, Marines, Secret Service aiming MP5 submachine guns at us, and the New York Times thought the American people were such stupid scum that they told them it didn't exist. And by the way, the New York Times is a shadow of its former self, and so are all the other globalist organs, because the people know that they're being lied to, thanks to the truth tellers and the trailblazers that came before us. So we salute Jim Tucker. Your work will live on forever. What we're doing here today will live on forever. The fact that they even have to admit that there are groups above government and that there are special interests. For those of us that have been awake for a while, that's comically simple. But for a lot of people, if they admit that's going on, then they've got to get up off their butts. Then they've got to investigate. Then they've got to find out what's happening with the austerity. They've got to find out how their tax money is going to people that control trillions of dollars and are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Did you get a memo not to drink the fluoride? Did you get a memo not to eat the GMO? Did you get a memo about geoengineering? Because it's come out that Monsanto, and it's come out that all these big companies in their own cafeterias won't eat their own GMOs, ladies and gentlemen. This has all come out. The Chinese communists won't eat their own GMOs. The elites in Europe have clean vaccines for themselves. That's the big ultimate secret, is they're running a giant chemical bioweapon soft kill operation against humanity. And if you come away with anything, it's this: for God's sakes, warn everyone you know. People have worked so hard to bring you this information. And the reason the world is beginning to wake up is a scientific fact of physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so as their evil and their global plan becomes evident, and as everything that patriots before us warned us about comes true, and as the liberty movement's credibility rises, and as the public researches these facts, The globalists are only going to intensify their operations, but that's only going to light a fire under everybody else's butt to take action against them. And if we all realize just how incredible this time is, we have a great chance of beating this, but it's the overwhelmingness of this program that is their greatest asset in the Bilderberg group and inside the New World Order, because it is a dystopic science fiction novel. But you see them in all the movies programming us for the type of future they're building. 20 years ago, it's now reality. But if we wake up to it and have a seismic shift across the board and really make it the focus of our lives to get outside the box and make the focus of our lives to wake up others, they will fall.
Where violent revolutions remove a tyranny and what follows is another form of tyranny. You do not create a peaceful society, a loving society, a caring society, and a just society with violence. We can do this peacefully, and we have the numbers. As the poet Shelley said, rise like lions after slumber, with unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep have fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few.
You are the resistance. You are the future. And the fact that humanity is beginning to awaken also indicates to us that deep down in our survival instinct, in our discernment, we know that the hour is short, because they know that the hour is short, and they are accelerating their dehumanization program because they crave power and submission more than anything else. And that's why I want you here today to pledge with me to never submit or surrender to the forces of the New World Order.
You got your white shoes on, but you painted them black. Still the old boys know all your secrets, and they whisper them behind your back. You might not hear it, but we can sing until the moment you notice all the walls around you caving in. Why, yeah, 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 true boy.
On Sunday, we all returned to the site to give the delegates and their police escorts a happy send-off.
White shoe boy. For all your private punches in your dirty old man's clubs, this is for you. You've taken enough. All of your twisted takers dancing like puppets on a stage. You're under attack. We're breaking the hack. For all your private punches in your dirty old man's clubs, this is for you. You've taken enough. All of the twisted takers dancing like puppets on a stage. You're under attack. We're taking it back.